The starship Eclipse drifted silently through the void, its hull scarred from a recent skirmish with pirate raiders. Captain Elias Voss leaned back in his chair, the dim light of the cockpit casting long shadows across his face. The ship's AI, a soft-spoken entity named Arya, broke the silence. "Captain, I'm detecting an anomalous energy signature approximately 12,000 kilometers off our port side. It doesn't match any known ship or debris pattern." Elias frowned, his fingers dancing across the console. "Show me." A holographic display flickered to life, revealing a small, irregular object floating aimlessly. It wasn't a ship, at least not one he recognized. Its surface was smooth and organic, almost like the shell of a beetle, but it pulsed faintly with a soft, bioluminescent glow. "What the hell is that?" Elias muttered. "Unknown," Arya replied. "But it appears to be emitting a distress signal. Faint but consistent." Elias hesitated. The Eclipse was a small vessel, barely equipped for combat, and he was alone. Picking up strays in the middle of nowhere wasn't exactly standard protocol. But something about the signal tugged at him, a quiet, almost desperate plea. "Bring us in closer," he ordered. "Let's get a better look." The object was smaller than he'd anticipated, no larger than a shuttle. Its surface was cool to the touch, and as Elias approached in his envirosuit, he noticed intricate patterns etched into its shell, symbols or writing perhaps. The distress signal grew stronger, a rhythmic pulse that seemed to echo in his bones. "Arya, can you scan the interior?" "Attempting now," the AI replied. "Captain, there's a life form inside. Humanoid. Vital signs are weak but present." Elias's heart skipped a beat. "Alive." "Barely." He didn't waste another second. Using a plasma cutter, he carefully carved an opening into the object's shell. The interior was dark, filled with a viscous gel-like substance that clung to his suit. And there, suspended in the center, was a figure. She was small, no taller than a child, with delicate, almost translucent skin that shimmered faintly in the light. Her hair, if it could be called that, was a cascade of fine, thread-like tendrils that floated around her like a halo. Her eyes were closed, and her chest rose and fell in shallow, uneven breaths. An alien. A real, living alien. Elias's mind raced. He'd heard stories of other species, of course, whispers of civilizations beyond the edges of known space. But to encounter one like this. "Arya, prep the medbay," he said, his voice tight. "We've got a survivor." The medbay was a cramped space, but it was equipped with the latest in human medical technology. Elias carefully placed the alien girl on the examination table, the gel-like substance still clinging to her body. Arya's scanners hummed as they analyzed her vitals. "Severe dehydration, malnutrition, and multiple fractures," Arya reported. "Her biology is unlike anything on record. Her cells seem to be capable of rapid regeneration, but they're struggling without proper nutrients." Elias grabbed a nutrient solution and began administering it through a makeshift for. "Can we stabilize her?" "Unknown. Her physiology is too different. But we can try." Hours passed as Elias worked tirelessly, adjusting the treatment based on Arya's readings. Slowly, the girl's breathing steadied, and the faint glow beneath her skin grew brighter. And then her eyes opened. They were large and luminous, a deep, shifting blue that seemed to hold entire galaxies within them. She stared at Elias, her expression a mix of fear and confusion. "Hey," he said softly, raising his hands to show he meant no harm. "You're safe now. I'm not going to hurt you." She tilted her head, as if trying to understand his words. Then, in a voice that was little more than a whisper, she spoke. Kale Thara. Elias blinked. Arya, did you catch that? Translating now, Arya replied. It appears to be a name. Kael'thara. Likely her own. Kael'thara, Elias repeated, pointing to her. Is that your name? She hesitated, then nodded. I'm Elias, he said, placing a hand on his chest. Elias. Elias, she echoed, her voice trembling. Over the next few days, Kael'thara began to recover. Her injuries healed at an astonishing rate, and she quickly grew stronger. But she was quiet, often retreating into herself, her eyes distant and haunted. Elias did his best to make her feel comfortable, offering her food and water, though her diet was a mystery. She seemed to derive energy from light, often basking in the glow of the ship's artificial sun lamps. One evening, as they sat together in the cockpit, Kael'thara suddenly spoke. Elias, why save me? The question caught him off guard. Why wouldn't I? She looked down, her tendril-like hair falling around her face. I am broken. Lone. No worth. Elias's chest tightened. That's not true. You're not broken, Kael'thara. And you're not alone anymore. She met his gaze, her eyes searching his. You kind. Different. Different. Others they take. Destroy. Her voice trembled. My people gone. All gone. Elias felt a pang of sorrow. I'm sorry, he said softly. I can't imagine what you've been through. But you're safe here. I'll protect you. Kael'thara reached out, her slender fingers brushing against his hand. Thank you, Elias. As the days turned into weeks, Kael'thara began to open up. She shared fragments of her story, how her people, the Vaylani, had been hunted by a ruthless species known as the Zarkon, how her escape pod had been launched just before her ship was destroyed, how she had drifted for months, alone and afraid, until Elias found her. In turn, Elias told her about Earth, about humanity's struggles and triumphs. She listened intently, her curiosity endless. One day, as they approached a bustling spaceport, Kael'thara grew quiet. Elias, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I must go. He turned to her, surprised. Go. Where? My people. If any survive, they will be in hiding. I must find them. Rebuild. Elias's heart ached at the thought of losing her, but he knew she was right. I'll help you, he said. We'll find them together. She shook her head. No. Too dangerous. Zarkon, they hunt me. If they find you. I'm not afraid, Elias said firmly. I am, she admitted. I cannot lose you, Elias. You are my light. Tears welled in her eyes, and Elias pulled her into a gentle embrace. You'll always have me, he whispered. No matter where you go. In the end, they compromised. Elias used his connections to secure passage for Kael'thara on a secure transport bound for the Outer Rim, where rumors of Vaylani survivors had surfaced. As they stood at the docking bay, saying their goodbyes, Kael'thara reached into her cloak and handed Elias a small, crystalline object. For you, she said. To remember. He took it, the crystal warm in his hand. I'll never forget you, Kael'thara. She smiled, a rare and beautiful sight. And I will never forget you, Elias. You are my hero. With that, she turned and boarded the transport. Elias watched until it disappeared into the stars, the crystal clutched tightly in his hand.